Hi, today we're going to talk about self before situation. Are you the tail wagging the dog, or are you the dog wagging the tail? Let's find out. In today's video, we're going to talk about self and situation. I think it's a nice title. It's not my title, it's the title I came across a video the other day in my feed called Self Above Situation by Sadhvi Bhagawati Saraswati, who's a female guru of American origin who lives now in India, and Dr. Bruce Lipton, who's also an American but an American scientist. And I thought he made some good points, and that the points they made are very much in tandem with the message that I'm trying to get across in this channel. And the basic message is that you start with the self, you don't start with the situation. You start with the inner, you don't start with the outer. And I think a major problem we have in society is that people are continually looking outside. If only I could have more money, if I only could have more disability or that ability, if I could only be better looking, if I only be younger, if I only be stronger, if I only be born in a certain place, if I only live in a certain country. It's always chasing something that you're not. And the problem with this is that it's never ending and it's never satisfying, because you're always chasing rainbows. You know, if you ever try and chase a rainbow, no matter how hard you try, you never get to the end of that rainbow. It's like that. You're always chasing something you can't arrive at. And the basic problem that I have with this, and even if you did manage to get all the things that you wanted, you'll still find some kind of dissatisfaction. So the odd person does get everything they want, but they do still have a dissatisfaction. The reason they have a dissatisfaction is you are looking without and not looking within. The part of you that wants satisfaction, the part of you that wants happiness, is inside you. You are a conscious awareness, and your conscious awareness wants happiness. And as long as you're running after things external to yourself, they're not really going to give you the happiness that you want. So the happiness that you want is within inside yourself. And the way I feel is that God gave you everything that you need to fulfill your destiny on earth. That you actually have a destiny on earth, and God gave you destiny, which means He gave you abilities. And we have this idea of implicit and explicit. If you have, say, a pot of gold inside the earth, it's implicitly there as a pot of gold. But what value is it to anybody? But the day you dig that gold up, it's now explicitly there. You have the gold, you can sell the gold, it can have sentimental value. It's valuable. So when we take something from its inner selves and bring it out, now it has value. So what people tend to do is they're chasing after what they think they should be or who they think they should be. But deep down inside themselves are the gifts that God gave them, the inherent abilities that God gave them. And when they tap into those inherent implicit gifts from God and they start using them, it makes them feel better and feel happier, because you're using your God-given gifts. And there's a deep satisfaction when you use that which God gave you. In the Bible, Jesus says, do not hide your gifts under a bushel. Do not hide your light under a bushel. So it's the same thing. Is you take those gifts out and give them and use them for the world, okay? So the gifts are there within you. So rather than always chasing that's outside, look within. So I just want to refer to a couple of points that was made by Dr. Bruce Lipton in the video, and I think they're nice points. I'll just list them off, and then I'll just give you my reaction or feeling about them, okay? Number one, in 1925, physicists came together and they decided that matter and energy were no longer separate, that matter and energy were actually one. What he's referring to here is called the Copenhagen interpretation, where all the top physicists had a week-long seminar in Copenhagen, and the consensus was that quantum physics is real, and that you can't really define matter versus energy, that everything is intermixed. He also makes a very good point that he says that we don't really understand it. We haven't really taken it seriously, because if you take it seriously, it raises things up like the fact that the mind and matter are the same. The desk I'm sitting on, my mind, are basically the same. And that things like the spiritual dimension is also the physical, and the physical is the spiritual. it raises a lot of interesting questions, and most physicists don't like to go there, probably because scientists like things which are facts, and they don't want to enter into that which is basically mysticism, which is where quantum physics, modern physics is basically going, whether they like it or not. Because once you get to the subatomic level, things get mystical, basically. What comes from that really is that your conscious awareness changed the world around you. Okay, they have like a double split experiment with electrons going through it, and you get different behavior from electrons depending upon whether you are looking at them or not. And that's what quantum physics shows, that our conscious mind has an effect. He also quotes James Dean. In 1930, James Dean says, "We have been led to believe that the universe is a great machine, when in fact it is a great thought." And this is very relevant because the 19th century was very materialistic, and they did some great works of engineering, and they had an engineering approach to the universe. And with quantum physics came the realization that it's way more varied and creative than you think. And if you start thinking in terms of a great thought, then, and this is where Dr. Bruce Lipton is going, then we are thinking. We are part of that thought or part of that thinking process, okay? Another idea that just came to me on watching that is we could think of it from a computer point of view, of that we're part of the computer, you know, the threads, each thread, each like processor is a little thing called the thread running in and out, all these different programs or threads being processed by the computer. So like the computers, like the gods, like the CPU, and the threads are part of the computer, but they are thoughts within the mind of God. I think it was Aquinas, I'm pretty sure, I have to check, but I think it was the great Roman Catholic theologian Aquinas who said that we are thoughts in the mind of God. And it turns out he's pretty bang on, a few hundred years ahead of his time. So we are thoughts in the mind of God, okay? And the point then that Dr. Bruce Lipton goes on to say is that we have two minds. We have a conscious mind, subconscious mind, which is something I'm always saying in this channel. And the problem we have is that the subconscious mind is largely programmed. That's something else I talk about. And in some videos coming up, I'll talk at length about the subconscious mind and the structure of the subconscious mind. So basically, in the first 7 or 8 years of life, we develop the mind, the personality. The person that you are sitting here is basically 90% of you is developed in the first 7 or 8 years. And the structure of your subconscious mind, everybody's subconscious mind is slightly different, but the structure of your subconscious mind was basically brought about by 7 or 8 years. And the programming is there. And so what he's saying is that, this next point he says, is that people say, I'm asking the universe for something and the universe is not giving what I want. And what he's saying then is that the problem is that our conscious mind wants something, but our subconscious mind is full of negative programming. So the universe is not giving you what you want because of your negative programming. He also refers back to the idea of, basically us being part of the thought or part of the thinking process, whatever you want to call it, the great thought that is the universe. And that it's a creative, that we are creators, that we are part of the creativity, okay? Like in your mind, you might have a dream or fantasy, but the dream or the fantasy is taught by part of yourself. And that part of yourself, if you think of, say, you were God, maybe a little person could be thinking an idea, and that idea could be a creative idea, and they're representing a creativity, and they are part of God as a creation of God. They're part of God, and they're representing that creativity. So what he's saying is people are not getting what they want because of that programming. So what he's basically saying is that the universe is creative. It's not set in stone. It's a creative thinking mind. We are part of that mind, and that we are inherently creative. But the problem being that the conscious self is the creative side, but the subconscious self is just a program side. And all that negative programming we get from other people around us is holding us back. And what does Dr. Bruce Lipton come up with as a solution? He says that we have to become more consciously aware. We have to spend more time being conscious and getting to know ourselves and becoming stronger in ourselves So we're relying less upon some subconscious programming from somebody else and more from ourselves. Okay, so that's pretty much what the video says. What I would add to that, I would actually clarify and say, in my opinion, some of that programming is actually our own programming. It's not necessarily external from other people. So some of the programming comes from ourselves, and sometimes we fall into faulty thinking. But yes, programming. The subconscious mind is basically programmed. And whichever way your subconscious mind is programmed is going to give you a certain result in life. What's the takeaway from that video? I think the takeaway, there's a couple of things for me will be the takeaway from that video. The first thing is that we are co-creators with God. We are capable of creating, we can create beauty or we can create terrible things. So we have this option as human beings, like the cows, the sheep, the dogs. They don't seem to have that option. That mind that we have, they have a conscious mind, and they do suffer, and they do also have pleasure, and they do have love. I mean, I see animals like pets and so on. They can be very loving, but they don't have a mind that can, let's say, abstractly think about something the way we can have. That we can go off into a daydream or like sit down and think about, I want to construct something, I want to create something. So this is something that we seem to have as human beings. Also, we have this ability to reflect upon our experiences in a way which is different from an animal, for example. They can also have some reflectivity, but not the sort of reflectivity that we have. So they are consciously aware. Don't think that animals are not consciously aware, but there's a self-reflectivity. I feel this and I think that, which is different. Like, so for example, an animal might suffer and it feels the pain, but 10 minutes later, if the pain is over, it forgets about it. You will be thinking, oh, I hope the pain doesn't come back. And they start depressing themselves. Oh my God, is the pain going to come back? So we think too much. That's actually the problem with the human condition. We actually think too much. So I think that's the first thing, is we are far more creative than we realize. And we are held back by our programming. So you probably have very good intentions for your life and probably wondering, and I think this is the conundrum, which I think is very interesting, is why aren't we better? Why can't we do better? Why are we held back? And we have to reprogram ourselves. That's a big part, is reprogramming ourselves. I think the second thing, which is very good, is this idea of self before situation. It's not that situations aren't important, because we are agents of change. I am an agent of change. You are an agent of change. We are agents of change. We're all agents of change in life. And we have, we can't help but do actions. In Hinduism, they refer to the earth plane as the karma loka. It's the place of action. You can sit and meditate for a while, but after a while, you have to get up and urinate or eat some food or something. You have to do something. You can't just sit still all the time. And we have to do things in this life. And if you want to follow your dreams, if you want to achieve things, obviously there's more change is going to be happening. Or more change happening, you're going to be in more situations. So your life's going to be more stressed and more dynamic if you're achieving success than if you're just sitting around. I remember at one stage when I was in my late teens, early 20s, I was very bored because nothing seemed to be happening. And that only was there for a few years. Now I look back and it was kind of nice to sort of not have anything happening. But at the time I was very, down about it. When is anything going to happen? I think a lot of young people are like that, kind of waiting for life to begin. And the thing is, then it happens. The next thing, it's like merry-go-round. Too many things are happening at once. And so I think if you're striving for success in life, obviously you are going to have more situations than somebody who's a couch potato. But the self comes before the situation. And when I say the self, I don't mean the selfish self. I mean you as a person, yourself comes before the situation. And that is being true to you, finding out who you are, grounding yourself, okay? I was knocking out a couple of shorts there last week on the YouTube shorts, and I talked, one was the kind of theme I was talking about is things like, don't follow other heroes, be your own icon. And what I mean by that is often we are sold in society to follow some kind of hero or some kind of, it could be a sports star, a movie star, a politician, whatever. And ultimately speaking, it's great that they are what they are, but you have to be your own hero. You have to be your own icon. You have to follow your own dream. It's not that these things are wrong, but you have to find your dream and you have to find your way. Okay, so this is very important. And that's why I would say self before situation is very important. Not to be selfish, but to be centered and becoming more your own person over time. I hope you like it and talk to you next time. Please like and subscribe. Bye for now.